Steven, did you see that the James Webb Telescope people posted a new photo just before the show started?
I did not.
You didn't check my Instagram yet because it is so flat, the image that they did, that they didn't get Skittles.
Man.
And I thought maybe it was going to be edited better, but you look at it, Steven. Go pull up your phone right meow. Look at it. It is, you know that I'm not wrong. It's right. Skittles is exactly what it needed for space. What is in the background? Oh my God, that's the dog. I was like, I've never seen Chip get in your office.
Well, I usually have the door closed, and the one day I do not close it, he's in the shot. Hey,
look
Chip.
At his ass. No, what's funny is there's a microphone coming out of his ass.
Chip. Hey,
and
Bob.
I don't mean his black tail. I just meant the fact that he that the microphone line. Look at me, I'm a dog. Hashtag Venmo Chip. Hashtag
feed
Chip
Chip.
Venmos. He only gets 12% of the Venmos. We'll get to that in a minute. But look at that, Steven. It's one of my Insta stories. Look at the before and look at the after.
All right, I see the before.
And then look at it. Right?
Ooh, Skittles.
Am I right, though?
I mean, Jared, the dynamic range, though, is crushed when you do that.
Look at the details that came out of the explosion of the stars.
I can't see that distant star in the background. That doesn't really matter anyway.
Whatever. Anyway, I just thought we'd roll into that. Welcome to RAWtalk episode number 25. We've got quite a bit to talk to. First, thank you to everybody who's been listening. We see the numbers going up, which are cool that you guys are doing that, subscribing, leaving messages wherever you can rate this stuff, and doing all of that. Yeah, texting to the text line, which is 313-710-9729. Sending in those. I see Steven replying to some of those texts all the time.
If they're to me specifically, I'll try to reply.
And it will say Steven on it.
That's how you know. Crazy, right?
So it's a pretty busy episode because we're going to talk about me going to NASA.
Again.
Me ending up 50 miles away from the pho place I was trying to go to. How my photos turned out, what I like, what I don't like, other photographers there. But there's also a ton of rumors to talk about for Nikon, Canon, and Sony, because it seems that all the rumor sites might have gotten together and be like, let's talk about flagships and stuff. And so we'll talk about that throughout this episode.
Packed show.
You're right, Steven. It is a packed show. But first, last week, we talked about Venmo for a second. My Jared Polin on Venmo, the picture of me with just, my nipples out. That's me. And make sure that it's me. You know that it's me.
I thought it's at Stephen Eckert.
No, don't send Steven money directly because he only gets 12%.
12%? Where'd that number come from?
We talked about it last week, 12.5%.
And I said I didn't agree with that number.
Well, I haven't gone and run the numbers. I've been busy, but let's read the
request. Jared Polin.
My friend sends $5,000 requests all the time to his friends just to be a dick.
That's funny.
There was this one time I heard that a Venmo story where a guy was on a date. He goes to the bathroom. He left his phone at the bar, and a girl Venmo'd herself $5,000 from his phone.
Wow.
One, people were like, "Why do you keep $5,000 in your Venmo?"
Exactly.
And two, is she dumb as shit because that's stealing?
You can see who you sent it to.
You can see who you sent it to, you dumbass. And yeah, I called her a dumbass. Yeah, don't try to cancel me, dumb. Oh, speaking of canceling, before I get to the Venmo stuff, Steven, we're going off the rails real fast here. Did you listen to Dave Chappelle's monologue?
Yep.
On set, I watched it. It's 15 minutes. I highly recommend people watch it. It is funny. It's topical. It's on point. It was great. I thought it was great. And then Rabbi Ebenezer, I don't know who the rabbi was, and people are like, it's racist against Jews. Just put in there, just replace Jews with black, Asian, anything else, anything else, and it's racist. And I sat there and I'm like, no, this is comedy. It is funny. It's not hurting anybody. He's poking fun at Kanye West. He's saying that there's two words where Kanye went wrong is he used the two words that you don't use. It never ends well when you use these two words, the Jews. If it starts with the Jews, it never ends well. Now that is funny.
I will say I was watching it live and I'm like, this is going on and on. Usually monologues are 5-6 minutes on SNL. It was 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it was great. I thought it was fantastic. And anybody that's offended by that, like, this is the problem with comedy today, is that people who weren't ever going to go see these comedians do their comedy would never be offended because they never would have seen it and they never would have gone there.
Yep.
So they choose to go there. People that want to go to see Dave Chappelle are going to go see Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle doing these jokes, not hurting anyone. Funny. Very funny.
Did you watch the sketch he did with the Game of Thrones?
No,
Where he
I didn't.
brought back basically every single one of his old characters.
No, I didn't do any of it. I need to watch it because I think
check that one out.
The funniest Chappelle episode ever in my mind was where he plays the KKK guy,
the blind KKK guy,
the blind KKK guy.
He thinks he's white.
Yes, that is the and he. I love at the end he divorced his wife. Why did he divorce his wife? I can't say it. You just got to watch the episode. But that is fucking funny. That's what comedy does.
He pushed the boundaries, man. Back in 2004, Comedy Central.
Long time, but
to have that on cable, it's awesome.
The Jews. Nothing ever good comes after you say these two words, the Jews. Anyway, back to Venmo. Let's read off the people who sent Venmos.
Did you get my request?
No, Steven, go away. We've got Will Marino, RAWtalk forever, baby. He sent $25. Steven gets 2.
What?
I don't know. I haven't done the math yet. Basil Hamad, RAWtalk with video. I would have paid $8. He only gave us 5. Asshole. I'm just kidding. Joseph Corini, Corani. How about $5? Thank you, Joseph. Shane Hunter gave 1 cent.
Speaking of the Jews.
But Shane, oh, Jesus. Did you just do that, Steven? You're not supposed to say, and you're keeping that in.
It's comedy, I thought.
That is good, Steven. Guys, that's worth a Venmo right there. Don't hashtag the Jews. If you hashtag anything, don't hashtag. Actually, here's the hashtag. Don't hashtag the Jews. That's funny. But what Steven just said is even funnier because it's topical and he should not be canceled because I represent the Jews on this episode. But Shane Hunter, who gave a penny, also came back and gave $6.50. LOL, but for real, here's money for a coffee. I don't drink coffee, so Steven gets all of that $6.50. Yes. You should try it. If not, buy a beer or something. I don't drink coffee or beer, but Steven does.
Yes.
We've got Frank Denardi, RAWtalk, buy Steven lunch, $25. Thank you. Steven, that's not enough for his hamburger. We've got Trevor Bonk, Steven's lunch money, $8. What is all this giving Steven money?
You just got to give it all to me, man.
Gregory Jacobs, is this how it feels to buy an NFT? Keep up the good work, guys. There's at least 12 cents here for Steven. He gave $1. We've got Chai Chapman. I wonder if he's Jewish. No, because he's a junior. Maybe it's Chai, Chai Chapman, because Chai Chapman would be Jewish. But as soon as you add junior, you're no longer a Jew.
They don't do juniors.
Jews don't do juniors. Huh. Someone's at my front door. Which front door are they at? Are they at this one?
Which house are they at? What am I?
Where are they? Mansions? Did someone just hold on? Someone just is running. It may be FedEx. Hold on. I got to go check. Steven, FedEx are a bunch of dumbasses. I'm still going to tell you FedEx are a bunch of dumbasses.
Was it them?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They ran away. They rang the doorbell, left the box, and ran. Still dumbasses in the city. Don't do that.
That package definitely isn't getting stolen.
No, but it's something that we didn't even ask for. I don't know why it came from B&H. Remember when we were it's a year ago. Remember when we needed to record the audio for the commentary for the Bernie book and we ordered that round thing?
Yeah.
One just showed up for a review. I'm like, guys, why are you sending this? We bought one too. Anyway, I'm breathing because I ran up the stairs. Back to Venmo, Steven. Chai Chapman Jr. Sorry, I'll get to that in a minute. Jews do not name after the living, so you don't name someone after the living, so there's no juniors in Judaism.
Why?
Because you don't name after the living, because it's a kanahara.
What does that mean?
Kanahara is like a jinx or something. Here, fine. You want me to Google the Jews? Here, Steven. Why don't Jews eat pork came up? Name after each other. Let's see. The difficulty is that many Ashkenazi Jews are superstitious and believe naming a child after a living relative can bring bad luck. Good. That's what a kanahara is. Kanahara is bad luck.
There you go.
You give it a kanahara. Don't give it a kanahara, I tell ya. You're going to give it a kanahara. Joshua Valdez gave $8. RAWtalk, check mark, please. Me paying my driver to take me to the airport. Then we've got Daniel Emerson paid $25 for podcast. Your podcast and videos have changed my life. Sorry it's not more, but investing in my company make sure Steven gets his 12%. I need to thank him. Thank you very much.
Very cool.
You didn't have to do that.
That's a lot,
Thank you. Oh, there's more. Yeah, you don't have to send us Venmos. It was really a joke.
Hey, let's beg for more money while we're at it.
It's a joke. It really was a joke.
Then we've got
yes, Alex McGregor, $5 coffee money, and I do not have a request from Steven. If you add up all of those dollars, it's probably under 100. It's probably it's probably close to $100 because there's a couple of 25s. 25, 10 is 35, and 25 is fuck. 65, fuck. Steven Eckert, we're just requesting $100. Fuck you. Denied. Not now. Not now. Not now. Let's see. Pay Steven. Decline. Goodbye, Steven.
Oh, man.
You just got denied. Anyway, so thank you guys for doing that. That's kind of funny. It's kind of a joke. You can Venmo me at Jared Polin if you really want to, but it is a joke. You don't have to do it. We did it last week, and you guys know because we listen. You're probably listening to the episodes that we did it because we were asking about paying to see stuff, and I don't believe in that. We believe in getting advertisers. So the fact that we're going back to like RAWtalk, some of the early newer episodes of, when I say newer, the reboot, have passed 10,000 downloads. And we're at a point where that's a good amount of downloads to put advertising money into. So our goal is you get an advertiser to pay money and Steven still gets nothing, 12% of the ad revenue. But the point is you get advertisers to do it. I don't believe in asking you guys to pay for this stuff. Just sit through an ad. That's the way I listen to it. Right, Steven?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid, so I have no input on this.
That's your 12.5% answer.
If I was getting paid, I would say a lot more.
Okay, Steven. So you want to get to NASA first, or do you want to get to rumors first?
Let's do NASA first.
Okay, so we all know that I've been going to NASA for the hopeful launch of the Artemis 1 rocket.
This is your 17th trip.
It's my third trip, and twice prior it scratched. The first one was very close. It could have gone. They realized they had a faulty sensor, and then the second one, they didn't even get close to. They got to like 8% tanking, and it didn't even happen. And then they rescheduled this one, and then hurricanes hit, and they had to roll it back. And then a hurricane hit, and they had to roll it. They left it out. Oh my God, it was a debauchery of debaucheries. But I decided to fly in, and here's how it was going to work. I was going to fly in on Tuesday morning. I actually screwed up the original flight. I had it set for Wednesday morning. I would have missed the whole thing. But I changed it.
See, that's what always scares me about embargoes, too. It's like 12 a.m. on Wednesday. It's like, wait, is that Tuesday night or Wednesday night? Or
well, technically, it's Wednesday morning,
exactly.
But we believe it's Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So I booked a flight for Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. 8:30, I think it was 8:35 to be exact, Steven, because I have to be exact. 8:35 out of Philly on the way to Orlando. And then I scheduled a 7 a.m. flight for Wednesday morning, which is after the potential launch, to just come back. So no sleeping, no hotels, no nothing, no clothes. Didn't pack any clothes. I was kind of like Muhammad Atta, in 9/11. Oh, shit. Nothing ever ends well when you bring up 9/11, does it?
Nope.
No? I think that was, no, they didn't pack any clothes, but I also didn't have a one-way trip ticket. So I had a round-trip ticket. So the plan was get there, go crash at my buddy's house, Trevor, another photographer, Trevor Malman. He's got a lot of NASA photos. And before I even get to his well, anyway, the plan was to go to his place, crash for a couple hours, then 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, head out to the meeting area at the press site where all the people were going to meet for the NASA social. And then the launch window was 1:04 to like 3:04, so that it's going to be done by 3 at the latest, which meant then I would just drive right to the airport and get on a flight at 7. And so it mostly worked out that way. And let's just talk about when I got there. I wanted to go to this place, and I couldn't remember what the FUB place was called, and I got into my car, and the issue is when you're in one of those garages, you don't have a signal, so you can't exactly pull up anything until you get outside of the garage. So I get outside of the garage, and I find a place to pull over off to the side, not like one of those assholes who stops on the fucking exit ramp, you fucks, you dumb fucks. And I pull off to the side, put my four-ways on, and I still barely could get a signal. And I pull up the FUB place, because I think it's called FUB 88. So I find FUB 88, I look at the pictures of the parking lot, and I'm like, this looks like the other place that I wanted to go to because this looks like the parking lot. So I end up driving, It doesn't look familiar or anything, and I end up being 50 miles away from where I was supposed to go.
4 hours later.
No, it was a 30-minute drive. I ended up going the wrong way by 20 minutes, so it was like 50 minutes, 50 miles away from the other place. So I'm on the phone with Steven, and I look to the left at the stoplight, and I'm like, there's a camera store here. I should go into the camera store.
Do you know who I am?
So I turn into a business instead of pulling an illegal U-turn like those dumb fucks. And I go and I park in this lot. I walk in, and then the realization kicks in is, what if no one knows me? Like what happened when I was with Jason Belmonte at the camera store. But I walk right in.
Kick the door down.
Actually, before I even get in, a guy stops me in the parking lot. He saw me. He saw me parking, and he waited, and he comes over. He's like, oh, my God, I can't believe you're here, which is kind of cool. You know, it's kind of random that I show up in a random place when you're at the camera store, because I'm kind of special like that. What? That was funny. I talked to that guy. It was awesome. Just run into somebody in the parking lot. So we're already doing well because I got recognized. So I go into the store. The girl at the front desk, she doesn't recognize me, but she's the front desk. So this store is a two-way store. It's got cameras on the left and dildos on the right. It's actually a sex toy camera store.
What?
I wish you guys could have seen Steven's face, because it's not. It's a but if you pay $8 a month, you could see Steven's face because you're going to see the video. Not really a thing. But maybe we should do that. Put up a link, and anybody who Venmos us, we can send them the private link just for fun. Oh, God, this is stupid. Why are we even mentioning this? But that is kind of funny. Don't shake your head like that, Steven. It's actually a camera store, hobby store. So I think they have painting supplies. I don't know if they had like trains or something, but they had painting supplies on the right and camera stuff on the left. They had a nice setup. They had the Canon, they had the Sony, they had the Nikon. They didn't have Pentax, and they had film. But this guy comes up to me and he's like, this is cool that you're here. He's like, I got to tell you that I think this was him. He's saying he was out of photography for a long time. Then he got back into it. Or no, the first camera he bought, that was someone else. The first camera he bought was a D5300 based off of our review. And now he's making a couple $100,000 a year doing photos and video.
Wow.
All because of our videos.
Wow. Starting with a D5300.
I want my fucking cut.
How does it feel, Jared? How does it feel when you don't get the right cut?
You need to tithe. Anybody who's made money because of me, not Steven, me. I want my Venmo. I want my Venmo for helping. I want that cut now. Just pay it forward.
Hey, can I take a picture with you, Jared? Well, if you Venmo me first, then you can take a picture.
Yeah, here's my Venmo, and you get 2 seconds. That's a Todd Wolfe thing. Speaking of Todd Wolfe, I'm going through the airport in Philly, and I end up seeing his mother-in-law's name on the wall.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Gene Carn, right? Can you play a Gene Carn? Go ahead, play some Gene Carn. So I take a picture and I send it to Todd, and he's like, where is this? I'm like, it's at the airport, because I think they did a Philly sound or a African-American Philly sound of something, of the music that came out of Philly, and her name was on the wall. And I thought it was kind of cool. And so I sent it to him, and that was kind of cool. But anyway, back to the camera store. I only stayed there for a couple of minutes. I told the guy I was like 50 miles away from the pho place I wanted to go. And he's like, well, this is Pho Central, because I guess there's a lot of those types of people there that like pho.
What does that mean?
Did I save that? Did I save that, Steven?
What does that mean?
I was Vietnamese, I guess, because Vietnamese is pho. So maybe a lot of Vietnamese people in the area.
You're not Vietnamese.
No, but there were a lot of white people eating pho there, which is a good sign.
What does that mean?
It means it's Americanized pho that I like.
I mean, you don't have to be white to be American.
God damn it, Steve. That's not what I meant, Steven. It's not what I meant. Take it back. So it turns out that the pho place I wanted to go to was actually called Pho 95, not Pho 88.
What's with the numbers? I don't get the numbers.
Well, probably because it's very hard to spell things, and putting numbers on it is easier. I don't know.
Just digging that hole deeper.
That is not a hole. It would be deeper if I tried to speak like a Vietnamese person trying to name a store. I'm not going to do it, Steven. I'll do it with my accent. No, I won't. No, I won't.
You thought about it for a second.
I'm like, I can't be like the Vietnamese, because now I'm thinking of Good Morning Vietnam. And
Good morning, Vietnam.
Morning, Vietnam.
Classic.
I saw that in the movies with my parents, and someone pulled the
when it
power
came out,
on,
you did?
Yeah, I was a kid. I was young.
That was late 80s, right?
Must have been. I was young. And all I remember is someone pulled the plug on the projector and everything went dark.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah, back then. So anyway, they rewound it or they put it back on. But I remember watching Good Morning Vietnam there. I don't know if they had pho in Good Morning Vietnam. They probably did eat pho at some point in Good Morning Vietnam.
1987 it came out. Wow.
Oh, fuck. Why would... So I must have been 7 years old because we
December
probably saw it in 88.
23rd, 1987.
Exactly. We must have seen it in 88 and they took us to see it. I don't know why. Why in the hell would you take us to see that and not like Aladdin? Well, Aladdin,
kind of
Aladdin
weird to bring
wasn't out
your
yet.
kid to that movie.
They also took us to Pulp Fiction as well.
That one's a...
I was probably 10 years old during Pulp Fiction.
Great children's movie, yeah.
Maybe I was 9. I don't remember. I was pretty young seeing Pulp Fiction too. Then I saw Eyes Wide Shut in high school.
I was going to say, did you see that when you were young too?
No, but what I did see when I was young was The Sex Boat.
Oh, jeez.
The beta tape for The Sex Boat. We found it in the house, and we had beta players, and then we put The Sex Boat into the beta tape player, and the coming attractions, no pun intended, were actually pretty good. So we're talking 1979, 1980, right? It actually exists. I found it on a website. I Googled it. I wanted to see if The Sex Boat existed on one of those websites that people search, not me, other people, and it was there. It's there. So if you guys go and look for The Sex Boat, this is what Jared was introduced to. Well, I grew up with Playboys in the house from the time I was born. My grandfather had I told you, this is a Jewish thing. Playboys always in the bathroom in my grandfather's house, and Playboys at my house, Playboys all over the place, and still Playboys at my house today.
I mean, great articles, man. Great articles.
Steven, the articles are actually really fucking good. You need to read the articles. The articles are awesome. So anyway, I'm going to give you the premise. We're going off the rails for The Sex Boat here. The coming attractions. So this is early take-home video on video. So where you had to go to the back room at West Coast Video or Epic Video or any of those video places. And so the coming attractions are the basic. Football team on bus with cheerleaders. I mean, it's just like they're on a bus. These people don't look like they're in college. And so you've got that. Then you had it was so basic bitch idea. They're like, I got it. Guys, I got an idea. The cheerleaders and football players are sharing a bus ride. What could happen there? And that's how Bang Bus was created.
What's that, Jared?
Bang Bus is this video where they try to make it seem... You know what's funny? When more people can recognize the casting couch than the White House, you know you're in trouble. So anyway, I got to get to the premise. I've given this before, but for anybody who hasn't heard, The Sex Boat was simple. There was this girl who was being very naughty, and her parents were making her go on this all-female cruise. So when she goes to the all-female cruise, she gets picked up in a limousine because she's a rich white girl. And so she's picked up in the limousine by the limousine driver who's like, figures out that this is going to be an all-girls cruise. So he talks to his other guy friend, and they're like, we should dress up as women, which is okay today. So it wasn't as much in the 80s, but you could dress up unless you're that movie with, I forget that movie, but they dressed up to go
Mrs.
onto the
Doubtfire?
No, not Mrs. Before then, I'm a turtle, that guy. I forget his name. He's got a podcast
Martin
today.
Short?
Martin Short, I think, plays a woman, or is it someone else? Anyway, they sneak onto the boat, and the Sex Boat, these guys, they have an idea. They're like, well, there's going to be so many women because they didn't have as many lesbians back then in the 80s, right? The closet was still full, right? Now it's okay. You're out. Different story. So they're there. These women are doing what they're doing. These guys sneak into the hot tub room and they start taking advantage of these women with permission. But wait, it goes off the rails even more, Steven, because somewhere along this journey in this cruise, the pirates show up. So a bunch of pirates dressed like pirates show up and start taking advantage of these women. They take advantage of these women. And then the drivers who were dressed like women come to save the day, no pun intended. They save the day by kicking the pirates off the ship and win all the women. And that's the story of The Sex Boat.
How did we get to that?
Back to Pho 95.
Oh
we were talking
God.
about Pho, then Good Morning Vietnam, then VHS tapes, beta tapes. Anyway, so Pho 95 was where I wanted to go. Turns out Pho 95 was actually closed on Tuesday. So it was a good thing. that this place was open. So I go to Pho 95. No, I go to Pho 88, and that's where I end up having lunch. I did take my camera bags with me into Pho 88 and didn't leave them in the parking lot where the Colonial photo store was, and I had my pho. Then went to my buddy's house, crashed for 3 hours, then went to Waffle House and had 4 eggs and double hash browns before the flight because I knew it was going to be a long night. Got out to the site at 6:30. We rolled out at 8 to the press areas where they gave us a bus to, and then it was get set up. I actually got permission and I got escorted to the press site where the press were shooting, which was over the water, which was a better area. I was literally right behind the clock. The funniest joke of the day that I made fun of myself for, Steven, was I was talking to, we weren't sure when it was going to launch because they were a little late into the window. And I'm like, well, how are we going to know when things are going to be happening? And then I was like, I could just walk around the other side of this big clock.
Well, when I saw your Instagram story, you're talking about like when it's going to be, when it's launching. And you're like, well, it's 10 o'clock right now. So let's see, 10, 11, 12, 1. Meanwhile, there's a giant countdown clock right behind you that says 2 hours before launch.
Right. But that I was explained to me, there were holds built in.
I know, I didn't know that, but the whole time I'm like, well, it's right behind you, Jared. It's right behind you.
So the hold actually they hold, and they did a hold at 10 minutes. So anyway, let's go into the gear. I'll go into the gear. I decided to go with 3 cameras. We got an R5, which the 70-200 was going to go on for the wider shots, and that was
last minute, right? That edition.
Last minute, threw the R5 in the bag, threw an extra. Had the
Why
2
not?
tripods.
Yeah.
2 R3s, 70-200 2.8, 400 2.8, 600 f4. Those 2 are adapted. I go to put the 70.
Right? Yeah, EF adapted. Wow.
I go to put the 70-200 on the tripod with the gimbal head, and I'm like, fuck, I can't do this because I didn't bring the tripod collar, so it butted up against the side, and I could have technically turned the swivel arm the other way, which is maybe the way that it was supposed to go, but I didn't. But it turns out that I was like, well, I took the head off, and then you have the big thick screw, and I'm like, well, maybe if I unscrew this and flip it over, the smaller screw tripod mount is there, and it was. So I ended up setting the 70-200 on that. I put the 400 2.8 on the tripod shooting vertical locked off, and I was going to handhold the 600, which I ended up handholding the 600. The issue with the Canons is the intervalometer timer only lets you take 1 frame a second for infinite amount of shots, but it's 1 frame a second.
Meant more for like time lapses, yeah.
Right. I really wish that it would have been like, okay, I want you to take 100 photo, 500 photos, whatever the equivalent of, whatever, maybe 10 frames a second would have been fine. 15 frames for ongoing because it wouldn't outrun the buffer at that. But I couldn't do that. So that's the gear that I brought. But I also did end up making a vlog, which we have to put together. And one of the coolest part of the vlogs is there was a group of the guys that I know, this Trevor Malman, and a bunch of other people that do every launch that NASA has, or SpaceX, or the Alliance, and everybody else.
This is them shooting on their own, or?
Well, they shoot for agencies or different.
Okay.
Yeah, they have different spacenerds.com. I just made that up. So they shoot for different agencies or different space YouTube sites. Like, they're really cool. They, kind of what I did. Frono's Photo's a photo thing. They have their thing for that. And I got them all around, and I decided to say, hey, do you want to tell me what settings you're using on camera and give me your Instagram and stuff, just so that I could promote them? I was really just trying to steal their information so I could know what to do. But I got them all on camera, and they were saying what their settings were going to be. And then Michael Clark, he shoots with National Geographic, another guy who was on the event with me, and he started asking these guys questions, and they were in like a round. They were standing around, so I just rolled and recorded it because it was awesome listening to them give the tips on what to do. I would have never gotten the settings right unless I talked to these guys. And I still was hesitant to believe the settings that they were saying were going to be right. Because they were like as Trevor likes to say, 1 over 1250. I had to correct him.
1 over 1250.
Yes, that's 1 over 2500. I'm like, that's 1/2500th of a second. I had to correct. I had to come correct on that.
Unsolicited advice? No.
It needed to be corrected, Stephen. So he was saying that his settings were going to be 1/2500th of a second, f9 at like 100 ISO, and I'm like, How the hell's that going to work? It's going to be so dark. I mean,
because you're shooting the sun, basically.
Well, they're like, basically, this is going to be one of the brightest rockets. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's a night shoot, and it's going to be as bright as the sun. Oh, that just reminded me of a fun song. The sun tonight, we are young.
Do they say sun in that song?
Well, Steven, I don't know. Do we have to go have another one of these and the dancing Jews?
Oh man,
we were young. We are young. Fun. And I'm not typing in period. Fun period. It's got to say sun. Brighter than yes. We can burn brighter than the sun. So anyway, they're giving us all these settings, and I just can't believe that this is going to be real.
You shooting base ISO at night, you're probably like, no way. It has to be
it had
like
nothing to do with that.
1600.
I just didn't know what to do because, one, you get one shot, as Eminem would say, to do this. It's pitch black. I mean, other than the couple of lights on the rocket itself that are not on the rocket, but lighting up the rocket.
The towers,
and how are you going to focus? Like, you're not going to get your settings right after it takes off because within 4 seconds, it's already past the tower and fucking shooting off into the sky. So what I ended up doing is the 70-200, I focused on the rocket, then switched it to manual. Also, what you need to know is when you have an RF lens on an RF body and you focus and then you turn the camera off, even if it's manual focus and you turn it back on, it resets the focus.
I hate it.
It does not do that with an EF lens that's adapted.
Interesting.
It did not do that. So I lock my focus in, lock the change it from AF to manual on the lens. So I've got the 70-200 set, and it ended up being set at 111 millimeters, which ends up being not tight enough. That one wasn't tight enough. But the 400-2.8 vertical was great because it had the towers, it had some of the water and the reflections in it. So that had the potential to be good. I set that at what, 1/25. No, I said that on purpose. 1/2500. So 1/2500th of a second at f8. I'm like, I'm not doing fucking f9. Fuck that. So f8 at
sweet spot of the lens
at 100 or 125, and then I handheld the 600.
With your giant guns.
With the same setting. You could see it. We've got the video. We've got the 360.
You really only have a couple of seconds until that clears the tower. Did you end up adjusting settings on the fly, or that they were pretty spot on?
Only on the 600, I did. I was shooting blind with the other two with, I guess, the settings because...
But they were close enough is what I'm saying? They weren't like a stop
they were,
or two off?
Well, the thing is, you don't want to blow out the flame, right? You don't want the rocket exhaust to be pitch white, I guess pitch white versus pitch black. You don't want it blown out because there's no detail. So my goal was to maintain detail and then bring back the rocket part in editing after.
At the same time, you don't want to have the rocket itself be completely dark and not even, you can't even see it.
Right. Which was how a lot of my raw files showed. I would have split the difference. I was off by like a stop. There's no off by a stop because the difference between the flame that's as bright as the sun and the rocket, which has zero light on it, is probably a billion stops of light.
See, Jared, this is why the dynamic range tests are so important. To see if you can bring it back 5 stops after the
Tony
fact.
Northrup. Shut up,
I'm just
Tony.
saying, for situations like this, which are rare, it comes in handy where you're dealing with 2 crazy different exposures. I mean, it's probably 10 to 20 stop difference, right?
It was insane. It was insane. The only way you were going to get reflection,
find that happy medium almost.
Right off the launch pad is the only place you would get reflection bouncing back off the ground.
Natural reflector, yeah.
To fill back into the rocket a little bit.
God should have just held up a giant reflector for you.
Exactly. The one that I got with the 400-2.8 ends up being, I think, the best one. You got all the smoke plumes lit up. You've got the tower. You got it clearing the tower. And then I did some split editing with the great whatever in Lightroom a little bit, but not too far because I didn't want the rocket to look fake. and I did make a print. I'm probably going to put up a limited number for sale because I think people are going to want to buy it, and I want to keep the price right. I was thinking like $250, but I'd rather have people own the shit than not, and I don't want to take advantage. I'm probably thinking at least 100, like maybe 100, 125. If I do 125, it's going to be include shipping in the United States.
Yeah.
And if I do 100, then I'll probably charge for, I don't know. I'll probably just roll it all in so you don't have to worry about shipping.
Just bake it in, yeah.
I'll just bake it in, and it'll be a UPS tube that gets mailed out. But I'm thinking I'm gonna offer those for sale. I wouldn't offer the Phillies ones, but I can offer the NASA ones because I can offer that. But the 600, so when I was using the 600 f4, the thing. Well, actually, let me take you back to the whole situation. They have the hold at 10 minutes. So we'll take it back even further. I get permission to be escorted over to this area, which I didn't have permission before. I wanted to shoot in the press area, but I kept getting denied for access to it. So
why did you get accepted this time?
I'm not sure why they did it this time, but maybe because I kept asking. I actually reapplied as press, and I got denied because you had to apply in like August or something, and they don't reopen it every time it scrubs. But they're like, we got permission to escort you over. They're like, we'll bring you back 15 minutes before launch. I'm like, I can't do that. So anyway, I ended up getting permission to walk back by myself. They didn't really, I don't need an escort, but it's government, so whatever. I found a spot behind the clock that was open because everybody already had their stuff set up when I got there. So I set up my camera. I came back like an hour later, and the amount of dew that was on the lens, like everything was wet from the dew.
The humidity down there. Oof.
It was 74 degrees with humidity at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And it did end up getting less humid by launch, but I ended up putting my iShoot RAW blanket over the cameras and the tripod. My bag was definitely soaked, but everything in it was totally fine, all the think tank bags. But I had everything basically ready to go. So I'm back over to the site an hour before launch, before the 1:04 window would open, and talking with other people, which was great, just being able to talk to other photographers and have conversations. And that was a lot of people came up like, I'm one guy as I was walking over was like, I'm now a news photographer because of I learned from you your stuff when I started, and now I'm a news photographer. I was like, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That stuff's always great, and it's so much better than the negative comments you get online when you get real comments in person. So we're at that 10-minute hold. I've got everything set. I already have my settings ready to go, and the clock starts ticking at 10 minutes, which means we're go, right? I've got my earplugs ready because I know it's going to be loud. Most people didn't wear them. And it didn't feel like 6 minutes later, but 6 minutes later, I look at the clock again. It's at 4 minutes already because that's what happens when you take 6 minutes off of 10.
That's crazy.
And, yeah, it's counting down that big clock that I walked around to see. But it didn't. It just felt like everything was going in fast motion. Like, we're going.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It gets to 2 minutes, and they're like, we're still going. And so at about a minute, about 45 seconds, at 45 seconds, I start rolling with the 360 camera. I start letting the two cameras on the tripods, I set them to the intervalometer to start shooting. They're just clicking away every second until launch, and I have my earplugs in, so I didn't actually realize this until the 360 footage we played back today, that there was a countdown going on site.Maybe I was just so focused that I didn't even hear it either. So I got my 600 ready to go. Everything's going. At 4 seconds, the initial engine burn-off happens. That initial engine burn-off, I think, burns off any extra hydrogen or whatever that might be floating around there. Okay. And then it ignites. I mean, we fucking go. And that thing starts going. And I lift the 600 up, and I can't find the fucking rocket with the 600. But the other ones are still shooting. Then I finally find it. The focus locks. I used continuous focus with the R3, I start shooting. So I didn't get that one clearing the tower, but the other ones are fine. Like, this is just what you deal with.
Why you have remotes? Yep.
Yeah, I find it, and I'm tracking, I'm shooting, and it keeps going and keeps going. And the sound, like 10 seconds later, finally rips across the water at us, and the tearing of the audio is insane. If you've ever been to an air show and listened to like a fighter jet put the afterburners on, and you hear that crackling of the atmosphere, it was like that times 100. And so it was an insane sound that just washes over your body. Here, Steven, go ahead and roll that sound. That's actually pretty close to. I can't believe that the Insta360
Picked
sounded pretty good,
yeah,
Steven.
Yeah, it was funny because you wanted me to edit a quick little like reel for you of the 360 footage, and I had to resync up the audio because it is so delayed. So you see it taking off, and 5-10 seconds later, the sound then catches up. So I had to resync it up in post to make it seem like it was actually all synced.
Yeah. So I'm tracking it, and at a certain point, you're like, I mean, it's just like I kept tracking it, and I didn't get the separation of the
once
two
it clears
boosters.
the tower, I feel like it's almost like pointless to keep shooting at that point.
Well, it isn't, because as we showed with a photo from John Krause.
Well, if you have a unique angle, that's a different story.
He did. But also people from the site where I was at were able to get the separation of the rocket. Now,
they
were using big-ass lenses, and they were cropping a major amount. They had to get the separation because it's happening all the way up there. I kept tracking it until it was a dot, and the R3 found the dot. I mean, it's not that hard.
I was going to say,
when everything is black and then you have a
one
white
little
flame,
and
but I was watching the focusing point find the speck, so that was cool. And autofocus really didn't matter for most of this because you just set it to manual. A lot of people shoot it on manual because it's on infinity and the rocket's just going.
So during the actual liftoff, I take it you had EVF simulation on in the camera, and everything just looked black in the beginning before it actually started lifting?
Everything was going to look black at the beginning.
So one way around that, at least with the R3, is you could do that OVF simulation dial. You can preset that to say one of the function buttons. So basically what that does is it takes away the exposure simulation and treats it like an optical viewfinder. So what you're seeing in real time, it will display on the screen. I always like to use that to go back and forth optical viewfinder and EVF exposure just to see, am I really far off with the exposure or am I pretty spot on? And in situations like that, it really comes in handy because you can just wipe out that exposure simulation, see what it looks like, and then track it from there because you're locked in anyway, setting wise.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I didn't even think about it. You have no time to think out there.
Oh no, yeah, it's something you use in rare situations, and you probably don't even think about it. And what about something like exposure bracketing too? Like if you set one of the cameras up like that, so you can do underexpose, overexpose.
There's no way. No, there's no way you could do it because the rocket's moving at 100 miles an hour as soon as it goes, and then it's just building speed.
I'm not saying to actually stack them. I'm just saying to simply get different exposures in case you're way off or really close.
I guess, but then you just got to pick and choose. You just got to go and try. Yeah. And it was good to listen to the other photographers that had experience with shooting night launches and got their input because I had thankfully I did that because my settings would have never been right.
If you had to, if you did go by your gut, what would the settings be?
Well, I knew that I was going to need to underexpose by at least 2 or 3 stops. Mm-hmm. I knew that right off the bat. So I knew that I was going to be at 1/3200th of a second at f8 at ISO 100.
You knew it all along, right?
No, so I probably wouldn't have been at ISO 100 to do it, and I probably wouldn't have been at f8. I would have been at the right shutter speed because I knew that I would need to underexpose a certain amount, but I listened to what the other guys were saying, and I made the decision that I'm going to I'm going to use theirs as a starting point and get pretty close. And I ended up pretty close. Am I happy with everything? No. Is anybody happy with anything? The honest answer is no, because it's not that easy to shoot at night, especially a rocket launch. Ideally, it would have been during the day, which I was told would be the same settings because of how bright it was.
But at least you have the rockets a little more of an even exposure, a little brighter.
You would have been able to have some light on it if it was during the day. But it is what it is. Everybody was in the same boat. And tweaking the file, I was the one with the 400-2.8 ends up being the best one that I posted. The 600mm ones is really just mostly the flame because as soon as it clears that tower, there's zero light on the rocket. Now, a couple of people got some images I liked. Trevor had some that I liked. I liked a couple of his. And then we're not talking about the remotes. We're talking about right off the bat. The one I actually liked was Max Evans. He had this cool one that was similar to mine, except he shot a little wider, so you have silhouettes of spectators and photographers in the foreground.
That's cool.
So that one was
more
cool.
Photojournalistic,
That was a cool angle that he got. But John Krause, who is a kid that I've known since he was 18 at this point. I actually gave him a 70-200 back when I was getting rid of all my Nikon gear.
Wow.
Before Fun to Photographer was the thing. I didn't trade it in because it was squeaking a little bit, because those AFS version 2s, or I think it was a version 2, were known to squeak a lot. Like the motors would start to squeak. So I didn't trade it in with Brandon because that would make it hard to sell. And I'm like, John, you have a 70-200, you have a 2.8 lens? He's like, no. And so this is like, I'm sending this to you.
And that version 2 of yours was well used.
Well, it was used, but it was still a $1,000+ lens.
The version 3 is so much sharper.
I ended up giving it to him. So I gave it to him. That was one of the starting lenses that he used. He was shooting SpaceX launches, NASA launches. He ended up getting a good gig with another company, which is cool.
Awesome.
But he went off-site. Of course, he had his remote set up on-site, because
How many remotes did he have? How many cameras? Because there were so many different unique angles.
Trevor had 14 cameras.
14?
All Canon.
Do you rent them,
mirrorless.
or?
No, he owns all these. He bought all of these mirrorless cameras.
Wow.
Yes. He owns all these.
Big investment, yeah.
R6s and R5s out there, but he had 14 total. So there's a bunch of different pads. You do different focal lengths. You do different settings. They're all triggered by MyOps triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what John said? He said that the rocket was so fast that the MyOps audio trigger missed.
Because of the delayed audio, right? Because by the time it hits the remote.
Well, no. Well, for most rocket launches, they're not as powerful. They don't have 8.8 million pounds of thrust. So the other smaller rockets don't get off the pad as much. They take a little longer to clear the tower, which means that sound hits it and it starts shooting. They did have ones that worked, of course, but he said one of his angles didn't even get a picture because the sound was so, it didn't even pick it up. It started firing after the rocket had left. But yeah, so these guys have anywhere from like 5, 6 to 14 different cameras set up around the whole area. But John went, I believe he told me that he went on to where the space shuttle used to land, the super long landing strip, which would have been off to the left of where I was, like on a different area. And so he has a different angle than everybody. And he wanted to get a moon shot. Oh, fuck. Now it makes sense why he wanted the moon in the fucking picture. What an asshole. I'm an asshole, Steven. I thought it was
because
just
the rocket's mission is to go around the moon.
Yeah. I'm an asshole because I didn't realize it till right this second.
That's why I liked it so much. I'm like, it's such a great photo, and he got it in a single exposure, which blows my mind.
I thought that he just wanted to get the picture of the moon in there. Now I totally get it. So he had to be at a different angle, and he said it was one of the hardest images he ever tried to edit. And he's shooting with a Z9 probably with he used an 800 6.3. And he cropped it a shit ton, he said. Now, the exposure on that is difficult because how do you get the rocket and the moon in there at the same time is super difficult.
And this was all in one single exposure. I assumed it was a composite when I first saw this image of the moon being really compressed in the background and giant next to the Artemis being launched.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now, and the fire is mostly blown out.
It has to be, yeah, because the moon's not as bright. If he didn't blow out
the fire, right, the moon wouldn't have gotten it. So it's still cool. I probably would add a little bit more contrast. I think I could add blacks. I would tighten it up a little bit. Speaking of edits, looking at a lot of different people's photographs, even NASA's style photo, I think that a lot of people got their exposures wrong. I think that they blew out the fire too much.
And a lot of the image, the white balance seemed a little on the cooler side. I really liked what you did with warming it up a ton. It just feels
that's what
right
the camera
because
caught.
Of fire, and you kept it on auto white balance, huh?
Yeah, that was the orange that the fire was.
Okay. Well, you would think with auto white balance too that it would turn it more cool, because it's seeing so much warmth in the image. Usually it tries to compensate, is what I'm saying.
So now the moonshot, now that I understand that this is the rocket Artemis 1 was going to the moon, that he wanted the moon in the picture, now it makes sense.
I think that is probably my favorite image that I've seen so far.
Well, my favorite shot, and it's John's shot also, it's on his so look up John Kraus, Kraus photos on Instagram. He's got, how many followers do you have now? 81,000. But my favorite shot that he got from over there is the ass end of the rocket as it starts to arc.
Yeah.
He has the solid rocket boosters in the image, just unbelievable amount of
and he
power
exposed
and
more for the flame in those images, right?
But
so he had to be crazy high shutter speed.
It was probably 1/8,000th at least.
At least.
So or right around 1/8. If I had to guess, 1/8,000th. But what is awesome about this shot, and you got to go look at it, is you can see the 4 other rockets on fire, powered up too. And so you got the solid rocket boosters on
Not
the left
the boosters,
and the right,
but the actual ones
and
on the rocket.
4 rockets on there, which are recycled from the space shuttle. I love this shot because you get to see the rockets in it. Most people are not able to get the rocket itself, including me, because you just couldn't get it because of there was no light on it.
What I like about John Krause's images is that he took this artistic take on these photojournalistic style images that you would normally get. Very creative in what he did, having the 14, 15 cameras that he had.
Yeah.
You were obviously a lot more limited, having only 3 cameras and can only shoot at that one point. But I guess, did he have more of a press pass where he can go wherever he wanted, or what was his deal?
No, I think he had permission to be on a private landing strip.
Just by himself, pretty much.
Yeah, probably very few. But really good on him for being able to go off to the side and trying to do something different, like coming up with the idea to do the moonshot.
Because you almost don't want to take a risk in trying something different with shoots like this, because you have one shot to try and nail it. You have one opportunity to try and nail it.
Yep. Exactly. I'm just texting him right now. I'm like, I didn't realize the moonshot. I'm an idiot. But I did realize that a lot of people's processing, or if they weren't RAW or whatever, just overexposed the flame
yeah.
and ended up with no detail in the flame, where I think that is super important to have detail in the flame.
I agree.
So it was funny. I was with Michael Clark. He's another photographer, because I think it's Michael Clark Photos or Photo on Instagram. He does National Geographic stuff, and he was shooting with the Z9 with, I believe, an adapted 500 5.6, and he just smashed the button during takeoff and shot 20 frames a second RAW at the similar settings that we discussed, because he didn't know what to shoot. He said he would have had the wrong settings too, and he shot like 282 or 284 pictures and put it together as like a little GIF type thing or a little video, and it looks great.
He just kept shooting.
It's funny. He shared my photo on his story, and I'm going through stories, and I stop on that photo, and I'm like, "This is a good photo." I was like, "Oh wait, I took that photo." I was like, I do like, because for my
they must use Skittles.
I didn't actually use Skittles, but the funny thing is, I edited it myself, and then I clicked Skittles. Very close.
Oh,
very
really?
close.
Wow.
The Skittles edit ends up being I didn't like the Skittles one as much, but my edit and Skittles edit,
Skittles probably made it more HDR, if I had to guess.
You lost out on detail in the flame, a little bit, and mine had more detail. But other than that, it's very close to Skittles. But I do think that my color, like you said, is a lot better than a lot of the other color that I ended up seeing out there.
I agree. I like the warmth, and there's something with yours where it almost looks like a silhouette to a certain extent. Because you lose the rocket a little bit, but there's just enough where you can tell exactly what's going on. And I don't know, the warmth, I think you feel like you're there almost, you know what I mean? Opposed to just having more of an off, more colder temperature white balance.
Yeah. I'm happy with my shots. Would I like to do more? For my first time shooting a launch, to not totally fuck it up, and I'm happy with the shot, which I'll be putting up on the store at some point and doing a 1 of 50 or 1 of 100.
Send me that RAW file. I really want to play with that with new presets going forward.
All right, I'll send you that. It's going to be very difficult. Everybody knows how difficult it was to edit this stuff because of the darkness. It was just, I believe in a thing called love. Just let the darkness. It's very difficult. It was very difficult. But so here's after. I have to get back to the press bus, before sorry, it's not the press bus. It's the social bus. By the way, most of the social influencers that were there, there's no way they got any good photo or video.
They had an iPhone with them.
They would have no clue how to set these settings. Michael Clark, on the other hand, is a real photographer. He also had a Fuji medium format, the 100 megapixel one, set up as well.
Huh.
That shoots 16-bit, so he was able to keep extra detail, whereas the Nikons or the Canons or Sony don't do that. So he was able to pull extra stuff out with that. He had a 300 millimeter on there, which gives an equivalent of something else. I don't know what, but it was kind of cool that he was using the Fuji as well. So I got to pack everything up in the dark, but I did take an LED light with me, so I was able to see stuff.
You should have took your headlamp.
Yeah, I don't have. We do have a headlamp.
You do have
right?
a headlamp, yeah.
I don't know
it's at
where
the factory
that is.
Somewhere.
It's probably dead at this point.
It's definitely dead at this point.
So I pack up, and my plan all along was to after the launch, get in the car when we get back to where the cars are parked, and then go right to the airport. And so if it went till 3 o'clock, it would be cutting it a little, not cutting it close because there's still 4 hours till I take off, till my flight. But the flight went at 1:47. Sorry, the rocket went at 1:47, and 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, we're packing up, get to the bus, get to the car, drive right to the airport. I'm at the airport by 3:26. Stephen, 3:26. Return my car. The American Airlines lounge is open at 4 a.m. Sat there, edited my photos, got on a flight for 7 a.m. I fucking fall asleep while they're boarding. I'm out. I don't even know we're ready to take off until the flight attendant is touching my penis to see if I'm alive. I was like, excuse me, what are you doing? No, she was actually pushing the button to raise my seat. Can someone explain to me why my seat can't be reclined at takeoff?
Dude, it blows my mind. Can someone
please explain to me this? Well, actually, I think I know why. Let me just say that it's probably in the back, because I was in first class. In the back, if your seat is reclined, it makes it harder for someone to get out. That is probably... We're Googling this, Stephen. We're Googling this. Why...
There has to be a reason.
That has to be the reason. Why must my seat be in the upright position? The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, says that the upright seat rule for two main reasons. It makes it easier to evacuate the plane in the case of an emergency, and it can help limit injuries. So I don't understand how it limits injuries. They probably know that if you're more upright, you're not going to hurt your back or something as much, or maybe you won't end up with whiplash as much. Why do Jews name their children after themselves? That's what is also people also asked. Oh, let's do other things. What people also asked. How do Jews choose names? Can Jews have middle names? Why do Jews have weird last names? Oh, that's great. That's a good
last names.
What the fuck? Fuck you, Mr. Smith. You dick. Why do Jews have German names? Well, that's an ignorant fucking question. The process of assigning permanent surnames to Jewish families, most of which are still used to this day, began in Austria on July 23rd, 1787, 5 years after the Edict of Tolerance. The Holy Roman Emperor Joseph II issued a decree called Das Patent über die Juden, which, oh shit, I got to read that again in Joseph II. Das Patent über die Juden, which compelled the Jews to adopt German surnames. All right. I guess so. All right. Let me get back to this. So I was right about the upright position so that people could actually get off the plane. Anyway, fell asleep. She pushed the button. I was crashed out. I didn't actually go to sleep till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was up from 6:30 a.m. with a couple of hours here and there where I could zonk out. And other than that, that's my NASA trip, Stephen.
So would you consider mission accomplished on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it through. Even if I failed, I saw it through. Because
you were happy with the photos though overall?
I mean, no. I'm happy with the one photo.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to envision because I didn't know where I was going to be able to set up because I had to find a spot where other people weren't at. And I did have an open spot, and you'll see in the vlog that I'm happy with what I was able to get because it's the circumstances that you have no control over. Mm-hmm. So getting those settings right, getting the 400-2.8 to work, not wide enough with the 70-200 at all, too far away, not great. Missing out on the launch part with the 600. I couldn't find the rocket for whatever, that was on me. Not a big deal. I tracked it as it went, but it was still very difficult. But no, I'm happy, and I think there were some good photos, like John getting the moon in there because it's going to the moon. It should be a classic shot. I'm not sure who else got that. Yeah. Even though it was a very difficult edit, good on him.
And he did confirm that he shot that with the 800?
Yeah, he shot it with the 800 super cropped, and it's one exposure. And that shot, now, for whatever reason, I'm an asshole and didn't really associate the moon rocket with the moon. Jared, well, I don't know why. But I still love the ass end shot that he has too. But good on him for going out there and doing that and getting something unique and off to the side.
Yep.
So I think that some of what NASA got, I think their settings were off. I'm glad that we were able to get them right. And, maybe there will be other opportunities, but I'm glad that I saw it through. I finally saw a rocket launch, and I've done quite a lot recently between the World Series and rocket launch and everything that and being on stage with Poison and all the stuff that I shot this year. Got some cool stuff, big stuff.
Like we've said before in the past, did you feel like you actually got to experience the rocket launch, or were you so, focused on taking pictures that you really didn't even realize, like, whoa, I'm here, I need to take it all in for a second, like enjoy this moment? Because it happened so fast.
Well, I was really focused on the shooting part, and then I took my eye off of the camera for a second, for about 8 seconds, and then I got back to tracking it. Mm-hmm. I watched it as it was going up there, but I was there. I'm a photographer, and my goal is to get the pictures and not watch. Yeah. I am watching, and I got the sound, I felt it, and I was like, wow, that's loud, and that rippling is cool, and yeah, I was there. It's just a totally different experience to be there than to watch it on TV.
For sure.
Yes, Stephen, that was a long recap of NASA, but it needed to be done. It needed to be done. Let's move on to the main part of the story, which we're going to not go too far into.
I don't think
this
is going to be the main part. I think the Artemis launch is the main part.
It is, but this is the clickbait title part. Ooh. Because we could talk about the rumors. All the rumor websites had something. The Sony Alpha rumors has the A9 III rumor. The Nikon rumors had Z8 rumors, and the Canon rumor site had R1 and M50 or R50 rumors.
Yeah.
What do you think? Which one do you want to start with first?
I'm super stoked for the R1 and the Z8 too. I think that's going to be a pretty big camera for Nikon. So let's start with either one of those.
Let's go with the Z8. So no one knows anything about this stuff, but what's crazy is Nikon Rumors goes ahead and posts the rumor that says that the specs are going to be similar to what you might find in the A7R5.
No way.
They say that, but they also go on to say that it's going to use the stack sensor of the Z9. And I'm like, well, guys, come on now. I know you're a rumor site and all, but get your head out of your fucking ass and understand that it's not going to have a Z9 sensor. It's not going to have a stack sensor. It's not going to shoot at the speeds of the Z9. Why would they put the Z9 sensor and tech into this camera? Because it's not just putting the sensor in. They would have to put the same processor, which means it's going to have the same autofocus, which means it's going to shoot the same shit. Why would they do that? That was just a dumb freaking statement. I still think it's going to have a 61 megapixel sensor. It's going to use the Sony sensor that Nikon has developed, but Nikon designed and Sony semiconductor or
Sony
whatever.
Produced, yeah.
Sony produced, and I think it's going to it's not going to be a stack sensor. It's going to be a good camera. I think, and they kept saying it's going to have the same form factor as a Z6 or a Z7. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think it's going to take on the Z9 look, which has that flat up top. I just think it's going to be more Z9 than without the grip.
The D850 was more D5, for example. It had that giant optical viewfinder, and the top of the camera was more D5-esque. But yeah, it didn't have a built-in vertical grip. I do agree it'll probably be very similar to that, like basically chopping off the grip on the Z9. I think it's going to be just like the April Fool's joke we did. A lot of those quote-unquote leaked specs that we made up.
What were they?
61 megapixel BSI sensor, basically taken from the A7R 4 and 5, but Nikon design, 12 frames a second mechanical, 20 frames per second 12-bit electronic, CF Express Type B, and an SD card slot, dual card slots, 32,000 ISO, just like the A7R 4 and 5, 4K 60p full frame video.
Look, it's not that hard. We should start a rumor website to make this shit up.
But and also, if they say it's going to be like the A7R5, it's not going to be stacked. That did not have the A1 sensor or stack sensor in general. I do find it very weird if it came out with a Z8 and it had everything the Z9 had, because they're just going to charge $2,000 less probably. And
it's not happening.
Yeah,
it's going to be a $4,000. It's going to be like a $3,800 camera anyway.
Just like the A7R5, $3,899. Yep.
So moving on to the Sony one, they talk about rumors about an A9 III that's going to be used during FIFA or whatever, and I'm just going to go out on the limb and say that there will be no A9 III. I just think that Sony has left the building with the A9 III because the A1 buried it. The A9 III, the A9 and the A9 II is using the same tech from 2017 that so that camera
and it just got the
obsolete.
New body from the A7R4 basically, right?
Right, but it's also 4 years old at this point. So I don't think they're going to make an A9 III because it doesn't make sense. Oh, didn't mean 4 years old. Not about the 4 years old because 18, 19, 20, 20. That's not what I meant.
It's actually just over 3 years old.
But what I meant to say, the A9 II still sells for $4,500, which is so overpriced for that 2017 tech. The way that I look at it is now that they have an A1 that's been out for almost 2 years, they can go ahead and drop that price, which is $6,500 now, to maybe $5,600, $5,700, $5,800, come out with an A9 Mark II, and there is no reason to buy an A9 III if it's $4,500, $4,600, because professionals can spend the money to get an A1 discounted if they take the A1 and have an A1 II, but drop the price of the A1.
Yeah, I do think there's still room for an A9 Mark III, just being, between $3,900 of the A7R5 and $6,500 of the A1. But I do see your point of just putting out an A1 II and then making the A1 initially, the original version, essentially the A9 III. That's right. That's what that's going to be. That's going to take the place of the A9 II. Yeah, that's
what I'm saying. That's why I see that there won't be an A9 III. That's my take on it. Sony has done weirder things, so maybe they'll still come out with it, but I'm just going to say they're not. I just think at this point, it doesn't make sense to put out a 24 megapixel camera. Maybe they'll up it to 30 some megapixels, but I don't see why they would do that. I don't see why they would spend the tech money to make all the stack sensors with less megapixels when they could make the 50 megapixel stack sensor one.
Well, and I also think the A1 is really the A9 III. They just renamed it the A1 when it came out.
Oh, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, actually, it's a pretty good point, Stephen. I'll take that back.
Well, just because the way they named everything was always backwards. The A9, it's A9, then A7, and then all of a sudden you come out with the A1. So they then went and matched like what Canon did, where they have the R5 and the R1 is going to be the flagship. Now they're doing their...
Yeah, maybe the A1 surpassed it, and they're like, all right, let's do this. I mean, because the A1 was surprising, as we all know, 50 megapixels, 30 frames a second.
And it came out of nowhere, no leaks. I mean, and we were shocked.
And then it showed up at the door.
And then it showed up at the door literally the next day.
Without a jacket for Steven. Just a jacket for me. Because actually, you know what was in the box? 12% of a jacket. So that's the Sony rumor part. And then the Canon rumors has a R50 and an R1. So starting with the R50, they're talking about that. I think that an R50 will be very similar to an M50 Mark II, which is one of the coolest cameras for vlog. I need a vlogging camera, Steven, because using the R3 to vlog is a little cumbersome.
It's just a little heavy, a little bit.
Yeah. But especially because when I vlogged out at the NASA, I used the 15 to 35 2.8 instead of the 14 to 30 f4, just because wanted a little bit extra light to use.
I mean, that's probably what, a 5 pound plus setup at that point?
It's got to be pretty close to that, 4 pounds roughly. It's got to be pretty close. That's definitely a heavy setup. But I think that an R50 would be great. RF mount, they can make shitty lenses for it. I think it will still have dual pixel AF.
Needs to be basic. Anyone can use it. Any beginner YouTuber can just pick it up and hit record.
And hopefully it has a viewfinder. I just think that would be a really good move to make a $699 camera or less with a kit. So $599 without a lens and $699 with a lens. And that would be my ultimate travel vlog camera, because would I want full frame? Sure. But I just need some better, faster, wider glass that's lighter that I can travel the world with. That's what I would vlog with easier, because it's just easier to set up and use, whereas taking an R3 on, oh my God, that's not very easy to vlog with.
And they really need that inexpensive price point of that $500, $600 camera, because right now the cheapest camera you can get is what, the R10?
Yeah, what, $899?
Is still $899? Is that what it is?
Or is it $999? I don't know what that one priced at.
It's $879. I mean, you need that entry level like $500 body only, or $600-$700 with a kit lens or something like that. So there's still plenty of room to have that entry level camera, and that's what Canon needs. And I assume this is going to be obviously below the R10 being called the R50.
But it would still have dual pixel AF. It will still have 4K video.
All the bells and whistles, yep.
It will have exactly what it needs. It will shoot stills and do video, and I think it's one of those well-rounded cameras. So I hope that's something that's coming. Now, the R1 is not going to come, in my opinion, until 2024. I still think we're over a year away from that. Now, we may get an announcement in 2023. So the rumor site had some really stupid rumors. They're like 85 megapixels, 24 frames per second with a mechanical shutter.
See, I don't think that's even possible.
I don't think it's possible. Well, you and I discussed it. How is it possible to shoot at 24 frames a second with a mechanical shutter?
I remember talking to one of the Japanese engineers. I don't know if it was
What'd that sound
Nikon
like?
or Canon, and I remember them saying that 16 frames per second with the mechanical, I believe, was the threshold that they can
Theoretical
hit.
limit.
The theoretical limit of a mechanical shutter, and they physically couldn't go any faster, and that's why electronic shutters started, outperforming. But 24 frames per second mechanical,
Well,
I can't see that being the.
And how are you going to get 500,000 shutter actuations? It's going to blow up, but way before there.
And you're shooting
There's no
85
way.
megapixel files. Now, granted, Canon tends to be like an 85 megabyte file. If it's 85 megapixels, it matches the megabytes and versus, the actual megapixels. Where Sony, if you do an uncompressed file, you're looking at like double. So it would be like 160 megabyte raw files.
I'm just going to say there's no way in hell it's 85. There's no way in hell the flagship speed sports camera is 85.
And based on the past, the flagship cameras have always been lower megapixel cameras. It's always been 20 megapixels. If you consider the R3 a flagship, it's 24 megapixels. I don't think people want 85 for an R1.
No,
50
but
would be the most I would go, like the A1.
If they put out an R5S with 85 megapixels, it's a different story.
Correct.
But yeah, the R1 is not going to be 85, not going to shoot 24. It's not with the mechanical. It may not even have a mechanical shutter. I think it's going to shoot 50 frames a second electronic in full RAW. I think it's going to be like 33 megapixels, right? It's going to go up a little bit, maybe 32, 33.
Logically, it has to be more megapixels than the current R3. It has to be a higher frame rate than the current R3. It has to outperform the R3. So you think they're going to give it a nice bump.
50 actual full RAW files a second, I think it's going to do, because when the R6 Mark II is doing fucking 40, what is the R1 going to do?
And they're doing, 195, that burst rate right now. Now, all they have to do is simply give it a much higher, bigger buffer, and then it can just shoot infinitely at 195 frames per second.
I mean, so actually, I think the biggest thing that the cameras are going to get is pre-shot and post-shot. I think we're going to get to, we are at the point where we're just going to get the ability to record shots after they happen and to record longer after we stop shooting, to give you pre and post, and it's going to do it with RAW. And I have no problem with that. I think this is the evolution of photography. And I know the old school people are going to be like, oh, it's cheating. It's not this. This is technology. And yeah, autofocus is going to be great on every system, but it's going to be the other bells and whistles and the other technologies that come out that are going to make the difference.
It's going to be all the little details. Yep.
Pre-shot and post-shot. I mean, geez, talk about shooting lightning. You see the lightning, you press the button, it already captured it. So it's just certain things will be made easier. But again, professional photographers are able to take the tools and the technologies and rip more out of them, use them to their advantage, more so than any amateur that shows up to shoot a NASA launch.
And I think we'll finally see the introduction of the long-rumored quad pixel AF. Dual pixel AF2 will finally graduate to quad pixel. So a lot of people are saying that too.
Can we please get Digic X2 processor?
Yeah.
Can we keep the Digic X in there?
I'm surprised they haven't given a camera like dual Digic X processors.
Just don't know that it needs the speed, but maybe the
R1
R1
I guess
will.
the X is still that powerful.
I mean, X really does give it to you, and it does, because it gives you a lot of speed.
Oh, yeah.
And power and autofocus. The autofocus that has been AI, for years now. Anyway, I think we hit all the rumors, Steven.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to go off of right now. It's all, logically what these new cameras will be based on the past, but we'll see. We know nothing. That's all I can say.
What was that? Oh, yeah,
we know nothing. Yeah.
Jon Snow.
Yeah.
I love Ygritte. I wish we could see her. I like her.
Me too.
Hi, Ygritte. How are you? When I saw her when I saw her show up in Downton Abbey, when she showed up in an episode, I was like, oh my God, look, it's her. Because that was a lunchtime show that I used to watch. And I just finished Peaky Blinders, finally, six seasons of it.
Good stuff?
Yeah, Peaky Blinders is good. It's just very hard to understand their Cockney or whatever the language they speak. Very difficult. I have to put on subtitles sometimes to understand what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah.
The Peaky fucking Blinders. That was pretty good. Yeah, that's a good show. 6 seasons of it. It's definitely worth it. So there's that, and I got to watch The Crown.
I have so many shows to catch up on.
As Steven would say, The Crown. Instead of The Crayon.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, that's a deep cut from Halloween episode RAWtalk back in the day.
We're going back like 2016, maybe?
Long time. Anything else you want to wrap up with before we get going?
No, just next week is Thanksgiving, so we might release an episode a little early. Not really sure on that yet, but if you see it coming out, Tuesday, Wednesday, then don't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, maybe people might listen even if they're at home and not commuting. Who knows? But I guess Steven isn't working. Are you off Friday too?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, come on, man.
Man, it's been like 10 years of this. Every single Thanksgiving. Are you off
every
Friday?
Year?
Every year.
Oh, and speaking of Black Friday sales, there won't be one for Skittles. We never do. We don't they're already in, I mean, it still says sale on the website, but we don't want to devalue our products. I also don't find it to be fair for people that buy something and spend the money, and then you drop a discount by like 50% for 2 days. Oh fuck! What I have to remember though is for Morimoto, for Steven Star restaurants to spend like $2,000 on food this year. They usually do this. They do this buy one get one, like get double, or if you spend $1,000, you get $1,000 back.
Like gift card wise.
Yeah, if you spend like $1,000 on a gift card, you get $1,000 bonus. Maybe this year they'll be like, you spend $1,000, you get $500. I eat at all the Steven Star places, so I like to eat out. I'm a big eater.
Best.
I eat out things. I love eating out.
5-star rated.
Yeah, eating out's fun, and so I like to do that. But I go to Morimoto, and every time I go to Morimoto, it's $70-$80 myself, if not more.
For one person?
Well, yeah. Well,
how often do you eat there?
I mean, like a couple times a month.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a week. Wow.
No, not a couple. No, you can do it. But see, their rock shrimp tempura used to be like $26. Now it's $29 or $23. Now it's like $29. It's insane. The prices have gone up.
Yep.
But I really enjoy that. So I have to remember to get the Black Friday sale. Oh God, I got to make a note because I don't want to miss it this year.
So will there be any T-shirts on sales or old guides, any that kind of stuff?
That we might do.
Okay.
T-shirts, what we have to do is I have to blow out of whatever's left. So there's probably not a good amount of mediums and larges or larges and extra larges left in a lot of shirts, but I'm going to blow them out because we're going to switch merch stores again. It was fun. They do a really good job of shipping and doing all the back end work,
everything,
but
yeah.
It's just not economically sound for us to do it this way. I want to go back to using Bonfire, where we can put up a new design and run it for a couple weeks, and then put a Bonfire store up, and it's print on demand, but real prints. I think that's what we need to do so that we can see actual profits from it. So we're not. In the old days, I used to have like 2,000 shirts or so in the store, right? Stock, so I would pre-buy them. Then Dan would have to go downstairs and pack and ship them, which takes away from his editing, which slows down us getting videos out, all to make a couple bucks on a shirt. So you make $6, $7, $10 on a shirt, or you make $80 some and change for presets when you sell a Fropack bundle. It just makes sense from a business standpoint to focus on the digital products. But maybe I'll put the shirt. I'm probably going to work the shirts on sale just to get them, just to clear out inventory before we switch stores. But no, I'm not a big fan of Black Friday sales because I know people do wait, and I know maybe I'll discount something that I can control, which is I think I did it last year. I took $10 off of rapid fire critiques and a couple dollars off of the mentorship, but I don't really want to take a lot off the mentorship because that is a 45 minutes of my time.
Yeah,
that I don't want to do. So anyway, we'll figure that out. But at this point, thank you to everybody who did the Venmo thing. You don't have to continue doing that unless you want to. You could do it at Jared Polin. It's Jared Polin.
Steven Eckert.
Just look for right. Do not at Steve. Is it Steven Eckert? If you guys send Steven Eckert, he's gonna only keep 12% and have to give me the rest.
It's Steven with a PH, by the way.
Oh, spell it so they know just in case.
STEPHEN. ECK.
Is there a photo of your nipples? Is there a photo of your nipples like mine?
It's just a normal photo of me.
Okay. Hopefully nobody spoofs you like on Twitter. Anyway, we got to get back to work. It's been the pretty long episode. We appreciate you guys listening to episode 25. Thank you all for your support. Anything you want to say, Steven?
Nope. See you next week.
All right, Jared, PolinFrontosPhoto.com. See ya. Bye, Steven.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. To infinity and beyond.